everybody. Welcome to your Monday edition of the Trader Merlin Show. We will talk about some of the things that happen in the overall market today, including gold, silver, S&P 500, and all that stuff. But I'm going to save that for the end today because I've got a slightly different show. Today we're going to talk about alternative investments. And as many of you know, over the course, not only on Trader Merlin Show, but also the decade that I did Power Trading Radio, alternative investments are obviously an interesting, piece that we want to add to your portfolio, or may want to add to your portfolio. It all depends on your risk tolerance, your risk profile, etc. Most people generally get stuck in the pigeonhole of, I'm just going to buy equities. All right, well, great. And we start to diversify into bonds and maybe international markets, and we get into commodities, and all of a sudden it opens up this door to, hey, maybe I get into REITs or real estate, or maybe even collectibles, which is going to be the topic for today's show. We're going to look at kind of the niche market, although I can't really say niche because it's such a big market, but investing in sports memorabilia. Fortunately for me, I have some expert here to join me. We got Les Wolff joining us. I'm assuming you're on the East Coast, Les? Is that where you're at today?
Yes, I am. I'm in New York.
New York City! All right. Tell me a little bit about your background, because I know that you have been doing this since the 1980s, so you've got a ton of experience trading in collectibles, but I'd like to get your kind of how you got into the collectibles market, because it is such a little niche market. How'd you get into it, and tell me about your background experiences.
Well, actually, I started when I was 6 years old, which is 1959, as a collector, and I've been doing it ever since. I had to become a dealer in order to afford my addiction. So, because I'm still addicted to this stuff, and I just love this stuff. And when I first started collecting this stuff, I didn't do it as an investment. I did it mainly just for the love of the hobby and the business. But now, since the pandemic has hit, a lot more people have realized that you invest in certain very good items, unique, rare items that are in mint condition, that you can make a lot of money with it. And it covers all different sports and all different years and stuff, so it's just crazy the way the whole business has exploded, mainly because of the pandemic.
I think it's kind of funny when you look at things like, we'll just take how about stocks? We'll take stocks as an example. You buy a stock, and generally most people are buying a stock because they think it's going to go up in value or down in value. It's not for the love of a company. Now, some people definitely buy, Apple because they love it. I'm in some regards very similar to you. Of course, I didn't get started in the 1950s, but mine was actually the early 80s. I remember 1984. I absolutely fell down this rabbit hole of collecting because some of the kids in the neighborhood, and I bought case after case after case of, unfortunately, Topps baseball cards back in the 1980s. 1984 was probably the worst year for Topps just because of the sheer volume they put out. But like you, it wasn't about, I'm looking at investments. I enjoyed the art of collecting things and basically going through the checklist and making sure I had every card and, finding the ones that were worthy, ones that were not. And ultimately, you select your commons from your rare cards and the ones that go up in value. But then it kind of changed for me a little bit, where I was now, instead of trying to get the whole set and be a collector, I would go out and actually just try to find those specific cards that I felt were going to go up in value, or players I thought were really awesome. Over the years, that industry obviously has changed a lot. You start off with pretty much like Topps sporting cards. I would say baseball, but it was kind of Topps sporting cards. And then all of a sudden, a whole bunch of new entrants come in. How have you seen I'm going to use sport cards in particular. I'm sure you have a lot of other, like baseballs and jerseys, etc., to talk about. But how has the card industry itself morphed and changed? I know now there's so many more participants out there and all kinds of little collectible units. From the 1980s through today, how big of a change have you seen?
Well, the 1980s is 1981 is when Topps lost a case against Fleer and Donruss, and that's when they first started coming in to the card market. And in '86, the Topps Fleer basketball is one of the most iconic basketball sets, and in there you have a lot of Hall of Fame rookie cards, and that's really jumped up. But since the '80s, it leveled off. It got hot for a while, but fast forward to the last 3 years since pandemic, the older vintage stuff, the condition of the older stuff, and the new stuff has become much more in demand. Mm-hmm. When you have a Luka Doncic card that's a one of 5 or a one of 1 that goes for like $5 million, you realize that people are just speculating and just guessing that this guy's going to be the next Michael Jordan,
right,
or the next superstar, and that's where a lot of money is being thrown around because there's a lot of people out there that have made a lot of money because of the pandemic and they need to invest in it. Or there's a lot of millionaires out there that want to use their money and diversify their investment. And that's what they're going into is the cards, the memorabilia, the autographs, the jerseys, everything now.
With the cards, a lot of it is absolutely speculation. Of course, Luka, phenomenal player, but you're right. Is he going to be the Jordan after 30 years of life in basketball? That's all speculation. From your business, are you a speculator? For example, are you the type that say, hey, you know what, I found this Luka rare card and I can get it for $200,000, just expecting to turn that and maybe sell it for $1 million? Or is it, hey, I'm a long-term holder here, appreciating this athlete and hoping I can buy this card at a low price and ultimately ride his fame going forward? What's your angle on collectibles?
Well, my angle is mainly I'm a collector, and certain things that I'll hold on to. But something like that, I'd be more worried like a Luka Doncic. I love him as a player. I think he's phenomenal ball player, Steph Curry. But they're only one twisted ankle, one broken bone, God forbid, to being an average, their career being over. I kind of tell my clients, you're better off putting your money into the Babe Ruths, the Lou Gehrig's, the Mickey Mantles, because they're not going to go down in value.
Mm-hmm.
And that's important because they've already established their legacy and nothing's going to change it. These newer current athletes, God forbid, like I said before, something could happen that could change their legacy, and you don't want to be stuck in that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, let's not talk about Steph Curry twisting an ankle till after the finals are over, please. Don't jinx my team there, Les. Come on now.
All right, no problem.
You mentioned something interesting there, and this is one that it kind of freaked me out a little bit. So when I was younger, as I mentioned, I was in the 80s, I really got hot and heavy. It's funny, I managed to find somebody selling cases. It was 36 boxes of Upper Deck, their first season, which, of course, at the time was like, oh, my God, a new contender, Upper Deck. And then what I found was my buddy was taking the Ken Griffey card, which of that, I believe that was a 91 or 1990 Upper Deck series, was like the most sought-after card in that collection. He would take those, and he found a Ken Griffey Jr. autograph online, and this shady guy was forging those signatures. And I noticed from your graphic here that your background, you got a lot of Mickey Mantle baseballs out there. And what it made me do is it kind of made me not trust. I kind of had a little, certainly a disrespect for this individual who was doing that. But how does one go and protect themselves from forgeries and actually get authentic autographs and signatures from their favorite athletes?
Well, first off, they can buy it from a reputable dealer like myself. I've been in the business over 60 years. And also, I guarantee everything that I sell. And also, what's come about over the last 20 years or longer now is third-party authenticators. There's JSA, there's Beckett, and there's PSA. Remember, it's their opinions. So anything that they put their opinion on, people feel more comfortable buying it.
Mm-hmm.
Or someone like myself, where I tell them I got it in person, give the date, the time, whatever, and a photo with, then they'll realize that it is authentic. Like the Mantle baseballs in the background here, I got those in the 1980s, and I saved them and only recently started selling them because the numbers and the prices that the stuff goes for has gone up incredibly. It's just crazy.
Well, and you've been fortunate enough over your years. I mean, I know that you did a show called, what was it, the Memorabilia Roadshow, kind of with ESPN and Cox going around the country, kind of like Antique Roadshow, but just doing it for sports memorabilia. Obviously, I'm sure you've made some great connections out there, which could probably get you, personally signed stuff, but also help you validate some of the inventory that you have come across, et cetera. So it just still frightens me. I won't buy a Ken Griffey Jr. Upper Deck rookie card simply because I'm pretty sure they're fake for my buddy. Let's say we've got viewers out here, and I'll read a couple of different questions. Margaret says, what's your favorite team to collect? Margaret, I don't know Les that well, but I'm going to probably say the New York Yankees. Am I right, Les?
It must have something to do with my shirt.
Yeah, it was there a second ago. Yeah, the Yankees shirt on. And why is that? I mean, obviously they're one of the more storied franchises in professional sports, but I mean, it is the Babe Ruth, the Mickey Mantles, your Derek Jeters. You got such great history and pedigree with the Yankees. Is there always just kind of that staying market versus somebody like the I would say the Giants, but they're a pretty damn good team too. How about the Arizona Diamondbacks? You don't have as much staying power history there.
That's true. I mean, the Yankees are an iconic brand. After all, the top collectible of anybody is anything having to do with Babe Ruth or Lou Gehrig.
Yeah. Oh, Lou Gehrig. All right, next question. Brian says, if everyone is throwing away the 1990s Topps cards, will they eventually become rare again? Brian, I think you'd have to worry about so much being thrown away because Topps were... I mean, there were I don't know the exact number. I'm sure Les probably knows much better than I do how many were printed. But I know in the 84, almost every card in that set, even though I have things like Mark McGwire rookies and Jose Canseco rookies, they're not worth much at all because there was just so damn many of them. And I'm pretty sure if people are throwing away cards, it's the commons. It's the one that were trash anyway. They're not going to be throwing away the cards of value in that set. So I don't see those 1990s sets going up in value any because people might be getting rid of commons. Is that a safe assessment there, Les?
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, they were over mass produced and overprinted, so they didn't. It's not going to keep. They're not going to retain their value.
Nice. I got to give a shout out to Wayne. Actually, Wayne is one of the guys who just joined us. He's actually from my favorite shabu place. So Wayne, good to have you here, my friend. Let's see. Pepe wants to know, where can you get the value of your sports cards? I'm going to assume that's pretty much that you probably have a couple different sites, but like Beckett is probably one of the main ones that I used when I was trying to price my cards. You have any resources for card pricing?
The SMR, standard card, PSA, just got to Google up. But remember, whatever prices that you see that they're just estimates of value, you really got to find out the fair market value, which takes someone like myself, who I'm an appraiser, which you have to find definite numbers of stuff that's sold to that for a comparable card. If you have a Mint 10 Mickey Mantle rookie card and it just sold for $3 million last week, and the week before it sold for $1 million, you just got to average that out, so it's about $2 million. But then you wait another 6 months to a year, that same card could possibly go for $5 million. Mm-hmm. So you really can't tell on the high end stuff.
And for a lot of you out there that are asking, I see people asking about specific athletes. Thomas is like, what about Dwayne Wade, Jordan, Magic Johnson? I think the general consensus there would be that you have someone whose career is done and over, and their body of work is pretty complete. They're not making any more of those old cards from their rookie years or some of their younger years. So those, in theory, should continue to go up in value. And I know we hear so much about people just running after specific rookie cards, like obviously your Tom Brady's or your Steph Curry's. Shohei Ohtani, I know, is a pretty popular one, or Luka Doncic. Those are, in some sense, gambles, in my opinion, because you just don't know how long their career is going to be. And as Les points out, they're one twisted ankle or a broken arm or torn ACL away from having an ended career. So, the value of some of those more legacy players like Magic or Jordan are going to do, I think, at least my opinion would be, do better over time because their body of work is completed, correct?
Yes. Michael Jordan is the aberration to all of that, because Last Dance, the show, and I'm not sure if you saw it, came out during the pandemic. And he hadn't played for quite a few years before that. And that came out and it just catapulted all his memorabilia. Mm-hmm. So what used to be worth $500, $1,000 is worth $5,000, $10,000 for certain stuff. So everything having to do with Jordan is gold. He's like the Babe Ruth of basketball now.
Yeah. On that note, how do you look at, I'll say, external events? So you just mentioned this Magic Johnson thing came out. We have a younger generation, obviously Gen Z.
Michael Jordan,
right? Well, I mean, either or. My point is, when you have a younger generation that's a millennial that probably barely knows who these athletes are, of course they'll know Jordan and Magic Johnson, they'll know those names. But when you have a film like that one that was done, about the Lakers and Showtime and all that stuff, it rekindles and resurges demand. Is that kind of we practice market timing in the school that I teach at, trading. To me, that's almost a market timing element where if a movie's coming out about, picking a Maradona or anybody, that it's going to create a surge for demand for that collectible. Is that something you play as well?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it definitely helps, but it's only going to be a quick surge in
quick
numbers.
Pop. Yeah.
But Jordan is like I said before, the aberration, because his stuff is steadily going up and it's not going down.
Mm-hmm. Keeps on rolling.
He was just so iconic.
NJ, one of my viewers, says, would you invest in World Cup Panini cards and grade them? For example, the Maradona, the Pele, the Mbappe.
I tell people, collect what you like and don't look at it as an investment. Look at it as something that you can enjoy. And this way, you won't be caught up in the price wars. If it's something you like and it's something, a player that you enjoy, just try to get their rookie cards of whoever that player is, whether it's a Lionel Messi, something like that. Get their rookie cards. So you can, but I always say you got to go for like the Pele's.
Yeah.
The older stuff. What if Muhammad Ali's, the Cassius Clays, because they're the greatest.
Yep. Self-proclaimed and actually the greatest out there. Now, you mentioned when we talked on the phone the other day, it's one thing to get these things. It's another to get them graded and kind of have them appraised so you know the value of it. When you look at preservation, I think that this is one that it should be an important topic, because I actually had a friend, he had a box of old, I want to say they were like the 1960s. They were the tops with the big black bar on them, and he had some really great ones in there. Some Pete Roses and Lou Brocks and like some really cool collectibles. And he had them on the bottom shelf, and they got totally mildewed and destroyed the cards 100%. So talk to us a little bit about preservation maybe of some of the sports memorabilia. What are some things that people should think about with regards to protecting those investments?
Well, I teach a class. You can go to my website, leswolfsportsllc.com. How to collect, invest, protect, and preserve. I copywrote it in 2012. I think it was when we had Hurricane Sandy, because I've experienced a lot of different things that can happen. You could have a seal break in a pipe or in a toilet or you name it. That could be above a closet that you have memorabilia in. And if you don't have that stuff protected, it's going to get damaged. Or you can keep it in the basement or the attic where the temperatures go up and down, where the mildew or anything could just affect it. I mean, I went to a person's home in Connecticut and bought his collection. The guy lived in a 6th floor of a 7-story apartment building. He had no air conditioning. He was a heavy smoker. So as we were taking stuff out of the closet, there was autographed photos and stuff that were in plastic sheets with the sheets melted on them. So you gotta have everything regulated temperature-wise. You can't have it too hot. I mean, I usually tell people try to keep it between 68 and 70 degrees, the house. Try not to have your windows protected with UV glass or coating on it. This way the sun doesn't fade. Even your family picture heirlooms that are on the walls can fade from the sunlight or the improper lighting in there. Or the framing. A lot of people frame, they go to the cheaper frame store and just put something in a frame, or just have someone, go to a framer and say, okay, please frame this, but they're not actually framing it correctly. You got to have it properly glazed, proper UV glass, non-glare glass, acid-free non-glare mats. You have to really take care of it, because you spend so much money to invest in your artwork or in your memorabilia or whatever you collect, and just only to have it sit on the wall and not really look at it that much, and then 10 years later you say, oh my God, that Babe Ruth autograph I had on the wall, well, it's faded off, it's gone, you can't see it anymore. So you gotta protect and preserve everything that you collect. Like stuff in the basement, I tell people, put it in double or triple acid-free plastic tubs. This way, God forbid, if you have a flood, you'll be protected and elevated off the floor.
Yeah, the floor, I learned that floor is a dangerous place. I mentioned this story to some of my viewers, but it's kind of funny. I have a safe deposit box, and some of the things I have in there are very sensitive to moisture. And I asked him, I said, have you ever had any issues here? And the guy says, well, we had some flooding one time, but it wasn't that long. I was like, can you put me in a safe deposit box that's like eye level? And then I also put those little desiccant packets, those moisture absorbers in the PO box, just to kind of, or not PO box, the safety deposit box, just to give me that little extra absorption. I mean, I've seen some pretty valuable collectibles ruined. One of my good friends had a 1980 Rickey Henderson rookie card in pristine condition, and he decided to put it in a frame, but he sprayed it with Windex before, and he didn't let it dry all the way, so he put it in this frame, and then a couple years later, he was going to take it out, and it stuck to the frame and ripped the paint off the front of the card. So you got to be real careful with these things, because you might think you have something of great value, but if it's not preserved and the person purchasing it from you when you go to sell it, doesn't believe it has that value, you could lose a lot on these ones. So I see a lot of questions here, Les. I think this is more from an appraisal type perspective, and I think for those that are asking these questions, I would probably recommend reaching out to Les, but I'll just run through some of them, and you can cherry pick, Les, what you want to go through. But NJ says, I've got signed boxing gloves from Mayweather, Chavez, Oscar De La Hoya. Good time to sell. I mean, how do you know if it's a good time to sell these things? You go to the market.
Floyd Mayweather just got into the Boxing Hall of Fame, so yeah, I would say it's a good time to sell. You got to find someone that wants it, but yeah, I would say so.
Manny Pacquiao as well.
I think his time is. I think his time is come and gone. Actually.
Yeah, I agree. Who knows? Maybe if he becomes, the mayor of the Philippines, his political power might help him out a little bit there. Who knows?
Maybe.
Let's see, what else did I have here? A Carl Yastrzemski 8x10 autograph photo to me. Are they worth anything? I've got Dwayne Wade photos autographed here. I mean,
well, everything has a value. But remember, it depends on what the person actually wants to pay. So, I mean, all those guys, Wade and all of them, they're all Hall of Famers. So they all have value. It's just a matter of what someone is actually going to want to pay for that item.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's where someone with your skill set comes in handy to know. First off, the different marketplaces and the buyers out there, so you can give a good appraisal of what it's going to be valued at. Tom, one of my regulars, hey Tom, hope you enjoyed that trading plan class. He says Lou Gehrig gave my dad a ball signed by himself and the babe. What would it be worth sat in the sock drawer for decades condition? Les might want to buy that one from you, Tom.
Send me some pictures. Email me some pictures. The whole thing with something like that is condition. I mean, I've had guys tell me they had a collection in a closet for 30 years, 40 years, and by the time they take it out of that closet, everything is damaged.
Yeah.
So you need to see what it looks like, and also you need to have it authenticated, which I could help you do all of that.
In your collection, I'm sure you've got some prized pieces. I've got a couple in mind, probably not anything as nice as yours, but I'm sure you probably got a couple pieces in your collection that you go, man, this will go in my casket, it'll be part of my eulogy at my funeral. What's your favorite personal piece that you have?
Actually, it's something that's taken me years to work on. Is like I've got baseball, basketball registers that I've got 500 to 700 autographs in them. That's taken me forever to get all the autographs in there. So that kind of stuff I really enjoy because it's a tremendous amount of work. I enjoyed getting it signed, and it's fun. So sometimes, remember this, people out there, sometimes stuff that's not the most valuable stuff can be worth, it can be worth more than just numbers. As much as we like to address everything by how much it's worth, sometimes it's just the memories that we want to remember from those books and all the time we went to meet all these athletes. Mm-hmm. So that's worth more than a Babe Ruth or a Lou Gehrig baseball or something like that.
It's interesting for me anyway. I'm assuming, Les, that you'll probably agree, but it does open up a window into maybe a lost memory, So I had a baseball that was given to me by Vida Blue. I went to an A's game. I was no higher than the railing, and Vida Blue was warming up, and he threw the ball right at me, and some adult grabbed it out of my hand, and Vida Blue dropped the F-bomb at this guy and said, "Get the F out of the way. It's for this kid right here." And I was like, oh my God, first baseball game ever. So, Vida Blue, was he the greatest pitcher ever? No, he's pretty good, but that ball has so much significance. It takes me right back to the ballpark. I can see the day, I can see the sky, I can see the crowds, but I don't remember shit from my youth, I will tell you that. But I remember catching that ball from Vida Blue, and you're right, it opens up a window into, memories or experiences. So it might not be the most valuable to resell, but it's priceless to me.
That's a classic example.
Yeah.
Something's worth more to you than anybody else.
Yeah.
And that's the best part of, remember what memorabilia simply is your memories. And that's what keeps us young and keeps us going. And that's the best part of memorabilia.
I have your, let's see, there's the website, everybody. It's Les Wolff with 2 F's. So you can go leswolfsportsllc.com is his website. Let's see, I will actually paste that into the chat here for anybody who might be interested. You can find his contact and email information in there as well. There you go. Just send it out to everybody. If you're interested in some sports memorabilia, he's got a lot of really cool stuff on his sites, I have to say. Part of me is looking through and going, wow, I wouldn't mind grabbing some of these ones. Unfortunately, you sold out of the Tony Gwynn, who was one of my personal favorite baseball players going up. The Richard Nixon one, I might have to pass on that one myself, but...
I have all the Tony Gwynn baseballs and stuff that I have with him.
Nice. I might have to check that one out. But you've got tons of stuff, as you guys can see. He's got it from baseball, basketball, boxing, football, and there's so many other things. This is sports, but there's even things like the Garbage Pail Kids and all these stupid Star Wars cards, etc. There's money in all of it. I guess if you do have some stuff and you're interested to see what it's worth, Les can help you out there. Or if you're looking for some sports memorabilia pieces, go check it out there as well. Anything else you got any events coming up? Are you doing any, I know you mentioned you have a class. I tried to find on your site here where that might be. What is it on your Les Wolff Sports page?
I don't usually, I am right now, I haven't signed up to do any, I just wait anybody that wants to have me do a lecture, just let me know. I'd be happy to do it. I haven't signed up any place recently.
Okay.
I'm setting up at the big boxing show next weekend, starting next Saturday in Canastota, New York, with all boxing memorabilia from John L. Sullivan, Muhammad Ali, Robert Fitzsimmons, you name it. I'm going to have everything there. Arturo Gatti. So you might want to stop by there.
Nice. All right. Well, I appreciate you opening our eyes to a little bit of a different topic here today. Normally, we're very trader-focused and trader-centric, and it's nice to get a little different perspective on some alternative investments. I have myself quite a bit. I wouldn't say I have any real high, big-ticket item rookie cards, a couple big-name rookies, but I will definitely be looking to expand my collection because I am the diversification guy. I want to build out things more in my portfolio. So, Les, thank you so much for coming on today and sharing some of your insights into collectibles. I'm sure our viewers loved it.
Thank you, Merlin. Pleasure to be on. And thank you, everybody. If you need to get a hold of me, Wolff, WOLFF, 1823 at AOL.com, or my website, Les Wolff, WOLFF, Sports, LLC.com.
There you go. Yeah, I put that one in the chat for everybody out there. So, awesome. Thank you, Les. Have a fantastic remainder of your day. We appreciate it.
You, thanks. Take care.
Take care.
Bye.
All right, guys, that was Les Wolff of Les Wolff Sports. Thought it would be a little bit of a different topic and something interesting for all of us, which personally I'm very interested in the memorabilia collectors. And I know we've got Wayne, who is my Shabu connection here. He's a big sports nut as well and probably has all kinds of sports memorabilia. But, we get these things sometimes. You go and you get... and we got Alex here, who is in the sports industry. Alex, you probably got tons of collectibles. Good to see you, my friend. Baseball's in full swing. I never get to see you anymore, so good to see you back on the show. Hope you're doing well. Most of my stuff was just some little collector's cards. I actually have a Michael Jordan rookie lying in my storage bin of cards, which I was pretty happy. It's not the really valuable one, but it's still valuable to me. If you guys got some stuff, might be time to price it out. I actually recently sold the vast majority of my collection for $100, but it was all my commons, right? I just put all my junk ones that weren't worth anything into a box and said, you buy that for $100 and deal with that. But judging by the reaction here, a lot of you have stuff, on NJ. You see you got signed boxing gloves from Mayweather, Chavez, De La Hoya. That's awesome. And if you were like a diehard boxing fan, it's nice to have those. But as Les was saying, if you got those Mayweather ones, he was just put in the Hall of Fame. Now all of a sudden those become very valuable. You got to have that trade-off of how is this going to impact my life by having these gloves on my wall, or can I sell those for a few grand and now go do something with that and have more money? So, I guess it's that decision you have to make as to whether that collectible or that card or those gloves or that shirt or that jersey or baseball, does it represent enough value to you that you want to keep it because of the memory, or is it worth it to go sell that and maybe create some new experiences? Who knows? Maybe you sell those Mayweather gloves and go to the next 5 heavyweight fights with all airfare included for the price you sell your gloves for. Now you make new experiences. All right, if you guys have any questions for me, let me know. Oh yeah, Batman, Bazooka Joe. It's funny. I kick myself, and some of you might relate to this one as well. When I was a kid in the late 70s, I had these Star Wars action figures. And me and my buddy, Rob Steinberg, hopefully it gets back to Rob some point, we used to go out into his field. He lived in Petaluma on this big piece of property, and we'd duct tape firecrackers to like Darth Vader and send him over here and watch him. Oh, the Death Star got him. I look back in hindsight, I'm like, son of a biscuit, if I just kept that Darth Vader in the box, it's worth like 50 grand right now. Unfortunately, I didn't keep all that stuff. But the older I get, the more I realize pristine condition, take care of your stuff. It could be worth something someday. So there we go. Alex says, the majority of my stuff is personalized. Don't plan on selling it like you. It's all about the murders. Yeah, absolutely. And Alex, I think that's part of the reason maybe why you get a lot of it, because there are some athletes, they don't want to sign stuff because they know you're just going to go out and resell it, right? But for you, it's personal. You've got to share those experiences with those guys, and those autographs or those situations represent a snapshot of time. So I'd love to see your collection someday, my friend. I bet it's pretty awesome. They're laying in the attic now. After the show, I'm going to go buy a nice case for them. Exactly, NJ. Clean them up. Be careful. Like, don't use any detergents, but kind of clean them up the best you can. And if you can get someone to appraise them, Les Wolff will do that for you. But I'm sure there's tons of appraisers out there. If you were in New York or something, you could go to that show. It's a boxing show. I mean, hell, that's the perfect place to walk in with some of these gloves and be like, hey, sell you these. Let's see, what else do I got? Tom Barr, speaking of traders, what is a Warren Buffett rookie card? Tom saws enough thinker swim card. It's very interesting that you say that. I mean, why not, Tom? There is your business idea. You could call them trader cards. I mean, why not have trader cards? It would seem like kind of a cool thing to do. Of course, the difference is with baseball or football or basketball, you have actual performance and statistics. With traders, you'll never really know the true performance for any trader out there unless you get a full audited inventory of every single account, and no trader is going to do that. Let you have that. All right. My father-in-law collected all the Marvel. Ooh, man. Comedy book since day one. He gave it away. Man, those cards are worth some serious bling. All that, the early day Marvel stuff. All right, let me go back to the show here and get into what happened out there in the markets today. We really didn't have much from an economic announcement perspective or an earnings announcement. It was kind of boring, honestly. But here's what we got cooking. You can see that commodities, gold particularly down 0.34%. Here's your chart of silver. Let's click your gold there. So gold performing worse than silver today. Actually broke the lows from the previous session. As you guys saw with SLV, we're up a little bit. So we're up on the day 0.69% for silver, which I'm happy about. I'm actually hoping to sell some calls here right around 22 here in the next couple days if we get another little run up. But gold down 0.34%, not the best performance, but still no big deal. You had Dow. Most of the indexes ended the day fairly unchanged. It wasn't a big day at all, but you saw these little fluctuations. You had long topping tails on most and small bottoming, which does indicate some weakness out there for these equity markets. Here's your Dow Futures as of right now, up 0.08%. S&P 500, a similar picture. I'll leave that yellow box on there for a while. It's been 5 days just traversing sideways in that box, going to right around 1090, actually a little bit lower than 1090. I'll give you the low on that one. I'll just drag it to there, 4071, and let's put another line right across the top of that range, and we'll put one right through there. So you got about a 130-point range that we're stuck in right now. We're near the bottom end, but just kind of traverse sideways today, even though the S&P was up 0.33%. NASDAQ, similar picture, right? You have just a long topping tail today. This does indicate weakness, right? When you have a picture like this, it tried to rally up today. It was looking great, and then just gave it almost all of it back. Not a great sign. Some might call that a shooting star. I do not. Technically, the design of this candle today for the NASDAQ on the NASDAQ futures, yeah, it is a shooting star pattern, but it needs to be at the top of an uptrend. So if this candle right here that my cursor keeps spinning around was up near the top, yes, then that'd be a shooting star, and look for a reversal tomorrow. But it's interesting, for the last 5 trading sessions on the NASDAQ futures, we have these very small bottoming tails. That's a sign of at least strength. It's kind of hit the floor. And notice that the open and closing prices for the past 4 days too, right? On the 1st of June, it closed at exactly, well, it's not going to be exactly, but let's call it 12,547. The next day, of course, it's going to roll over there. Then you have this big close up here. And then it opens up the next day, close right at the bottom, but it keeps bouncing right to the same level. So kind of interesting to see the real bodies right here all along that same level. Russell 2000, the one that looks completely different than the other markets out there. Here's your Russell 2000 on the day. Very narrow, condensed little price action. looking fairly decent to me, though. It's been making higher highs and higher lows. I think you'll end up getting this one back up to 1950, and then we'll start to see it drift back down. Crude oil up 0.45% today, even though it gapped up, had a nice big gap. Some of you experiencing $7, $8, $9 oil gas prices, excuse me. Look, where are we headed? Well, in my opinion, back to 130. Today we didn't get the close above that high that I wanted, right? The high that I'm referencing is back from May 31st, and that high was 119.98, so we'll call it 120. Well, we haven't gotten a close above 120 since then. So when we get a close above 120, then I'd be a little bit more optimistic about it challenging that 130 price mark that we had going all the way back into March. And finally, a long overdue pop, although we had one 4 days ago, on Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies. 31,495 is where Bitcoin closed at today, and that's a gain of about 6.64%. But look what's going on here with price. It's not doing anything. I mean, you're really just bouncing. It's just traversing sideways here. I don't know why that box got put there. Should be more like this. There's our range bound for Bitcoin. Good news is we're headed towards the top there. If we can get above that 32,000, call it 870, then we might have some more upside move and fill this gap that goes all the way back to May 6th and 7th. So we'll have to wait and see if that one transpires. But that's what you had. Comments on Elon Musk and Twitter. What about his potential backing out? I don't have any. Let's go back to this chart and look at TWTR. Yeah, I don't really have much to say about it. I mean, I think it's just a constant soap opera. I guess the question for anybody out there is, are you potentially going to be a buyer of Twitter? If the deal goes through, then this thing should pop back up in the 50 range. However, it seems like more and more excuses are being put in place, and he's trying to feels like he's trying to back out of that deal. If that happens, I think Twitter could go significantly lower. That said, do we think that Twitter's going to go under and just cease to be used? Absolutely not. So at some point, I think that there will be a great value here to buy Twitter. I guess the question is when. Let me put up a weekly here. And we can see this weekly time frame of Twitter going back into 2017. Twitter was down around $14. Well, here we are at $39. Obviously we had this pretty sharp sell-off here on the weekly that goes all the way back to a low right around $32. 32 might actually be a decent buy point here. Personally, I think that there's just too much risk with what's going on with Twitter and what's going on with Elon Musk and the legal stuff. A little bit too weird for me. A Texas Attorney General filed a lawsuit basically for Elon Musk today about the number of bots. Yeah, and again, I think this is going to be one that keeps going on. I think that the shareholders of Twitter have a gripe against the executives. Twitter knows exactly how many bots there are out there. Matter of fact, Twitter is probably creating bots. And maybe this whole purchase thing was to draw attention to the fact that someone is creating bots. Could it be Twitter? Think about it. If I'm an online business and I'm tracked based off of my corporate growth, the more people that use my platform, the more it looks like I'm growing, the better it looks for me. So why don't I just create bots that are now tweeting out more? So now my tweets per day go up, my number of users go up, and I can just creating bot after bot after bot, and I can create tens of thousands of bots on a daily basis to increase my numbers. I'm not saying that that's what Twitter has done, but when you look at the spectrum of plausibility, 0 being there's no chance on earth that would ever happen, to 100 being they did it. I would look at it at about the 70 to 75% range. This is a benefit to their business by creating bots. So who knows? Tom says in the end, Elon Musk will get a better price and still buy. He's definitely going to get a better price without question. It's a question of does he back it all together? Any good oops on your 1% month strategy? Any good premium? So Josh, it's actually been better than normal. So I can go out and show you different things on my oops strategy. So let's just look at things like, unfortunately I don't have all my numbers here in front of me. I have them all written down in my downstairs office. But if I look at something like XLY, right? So here's XLY on the daily. And so for those that don't know, I do a strategy. I call it the 1% strategy. And basically I sold 160 puts. But I sold those way back up in April. And I sold those for May. And it just kept falling like a rock. So, of course, I got executed at 160. And then all of a sudden we had this nice big pop. And so what I did is as this thing really rallied up, I was selling the 160 calls. Now, if you look at where you see it says 157.91. That is my average price in. So in theory, it looks like I'm down big, but I'm not, because I didn't pay 160. I paid 160, but I collected $2.09 worth of premium per share. And then I just sold calls against that again at 160. So if it stays here and goes sideways, I collected another $2. So now I'm down $1 on those shares. So I have 4 of them, so that's $400. I'm down $400, but at one point this thing was down a couple thousand. So it's actually begin. Oh, you mean opportunities? I thought you meant oops, as in you screwed up. You trying to call me out, Josh? I'm all right with that. It's cool. That one's done great. XLK, this is another one that I got exercised. So I sold the 140s and I sold the 135s, and I got executed on both of those, and all of a sudden this rip up. I was put the shares. I was now long XLK in 2 different strike prices, and now it's above the strike price for both of them, and I sold calls at a higher price. So this 1% strategy actually generated me way more than 1%, simply because the price action that's happened here recently, plus the covered calls. So are there any opportunities out there? Well, as I look through what happened out there today, XLY, for example, you notice we've had this monster move up. I personally would not be looking to buy calls or puts here. It's a question of, what do I think is going to happen? So for the 1% strategy that I do, I'm generally selling puts. And a day like today where you had mainly things were up, not a good day to be selling puts. So there was nothing here that really made me want to go out and sell puts today. I'll wait for a market crash, then I'll sell into the fear when people pay more money for the put options. But right now, no, there's nothing here that I say, I got to be selling some puts on this one. Do I sell calls because I think the trend's going to go back down? Too risky for me. We could continue to have a bear market rally here as inflation numbers start to ease, and we'll get some indication as that this week. We have consumer price index numbers coming out this week. You got PPI numbers coming out next week, plus retail sales numbers, plus an FOMC meeting next week. So it's kind of like I'm kind of feeling like don't rush into anything. I'd much rather be in cash. I would actually personally like to have cash freed up so that when that announcement happens next Wednesday on the 15th, then I'll look to sell some puts or sell calls depending on what happens with that market direction that day. But I'd rather be a seller of calls or puts when people are panicking, right? That's really when I want to be selling those options, and I just don't see anything out there right now that screams at me from my type of strategy. I know Tom is with us, and he's gonna be like, "Oh, I got trades that are gonna look good." Not for me. Has been rallying as the market's dropping. Any thoughts? I don't even look at WWE. I watched wrestling when I was a kid. Not so much anymore. All right, so what do we got here? You have WWE. This is a daily time frame. Actually, kind of surprising. It's got a decent looking chart, right? You got this higher highs, higher lows, so it's been making an upward trend, at least from the lows back to 2020. Now, if you look at what's happening right now, for anybody who's into technical patterns, this is a bullish flag formation. So you have 2 ways you can read this one. There's one is right there, right? So you basically go from where the big rally started to where it ended. And then the bull flag would say you're going to draw through those kind of high points and through those low points. And it's choppy. The last 5 days for WWE have been very, very choppy. However, this is a bullish flag pattern. And in theory, well, actually, before I say that, you could draw this from 2 places. And this is all subject to the artist. You could draw it from where this huge move began or where the real strong move happened. I mean, I know it all looks strong. When you look back at the low on May 9th through where it peaked out on June 1st, it looks strong. But really, the thrust happened right here, going back to May 25th. Right? So you could draw it from both ways. Let's draw it from this perspective. And then what? Well, usually with a bull flag formation, when it breaks out, they use a measuring object, which is the distance of the initial move. So you would move that over to here to give you an idea of where it may go when it breaks. And that said, that would put WWE at roughly 74.60. So I think it looks pretty good. Even though the market's going down, I don't have an explanation for that, Josh. Sometimes the markets move in strange ways. I don't really follow the wrestling entertainment stocks anymore, but they seem to be doing pretty damn good. So, you stay with that one. Stay with it long until it proves you wrong. I personally think if the markets drop, it's going to bring everything down with it, but there will always be something that goes the opposite direction. Let's see what else I have here. I had listener questions I got to get to tomorrow. And Zanzibar, I didn't see Zanzibar in here. I know you had some questions for me regarding TradeStation, and that's going to happen on Tuesday. Tomorrow we'll do those TradeStation questions. So here is what we have cooking for tomorrow, everybody. This is important. You do see on the top there you have Australian dollar cash rate. That's basically what that Aussie is going to be trading at, and that's going to be an important one for anybody who's in that Forex space. The Aussie dollar for the past, I guess, couple of weeks has been very strong. However, the bigger picture has been trending down. Let me bring that up for you over here. Going back to 2021's peak, Australian dollar against US dollar was at 0.8, fell all the way down to 0.65. So 15-cent slide in that. That's pretty significant. And here we are now with a nice little rally back up into this origin of supply, which is right around 72.60. Now it's drifting down. So kind of curious to see what this rate announcement might mean for the Australian dollar tomorrow morning. That will be just after midnight Eastern time, about 9:30 p.m. Pacific time here. Can you touch on I-bonds? Is it a good time? TC, if you go back to my show, there's the most recent show that I did with Bill Addis. Just type in Bill Addis on the archive show. I can actually maybe even paste that one in here for you. We did a whole session on I-bonds. And the question is, are you okay making 9%? And most people are probably going to say yes. Is it a good time? Well, I personally think so, but I'm not an investment advisor. I can't give financial advice. That's not what I do. One sec. I'm going to bring it up here and see if I can bring up the show for you. But Bill Addis gave some interesting insights into it, into I-bonds and how that all works. If you guys know, here is my my YouTube page. And the question is, we don't want to do that. I have to loop myself on the same shirt I'm wearing today. But come on, Merlin. Videos. You go to videos. You can go into uploads. And do all uploads. And then there's Bill Addis. It was a couple weeks ago we did that one. Right here it says Understanding I-Bonds with Bill Addis. I will copy and paste that in the chat for you guys just so you can have that one out there. There you go. Yeah, you know what? I like the I-Bonds from the perspective of you can earn a fairly high rate of return. Now, granted, interest rates are rising. Inflation is rising, although we saw with the core PCE price index last week, things kind of flattening out a little bit. I'm really curious to see what we're going to see with CPI this week and PPI next week. If those numbers start to show a little bit of a slide, then lock in some I-bond rate and much higher rate. There you go. Hey Merlin, can you add your Tuesday TradeStation session on how to auto move the stop up for a second contract runner after you hit target one? Okay, you're gonna have to remind me tomorrow on that one, Pepe, But yes, I will do what I can with TradeStation tomorrow. I hate to make it a TradeStation show, but certainly I will do my best to get as many TradeStation questions answered. So bring those tomorrow. That's it from the economic perspective. We have really no important earnings tomorrow, so it's not that big of a deal. Judy says, will we have Bill back to talk about bond outlook? Sure. I try to get him on once a month. He is hands down my favorite. I think he's the most realist and not overly opinionated. He just looks at the facts of it. So yeah, I'll try to get him on again soon. I know right now he's busy doing his course for Online Trading Academy. He's got a series called Bond Aid where he basically just looks at bonds all the time. Yep, Bill is a very useful guy. He's a good friend to have. I'm glad he ended up on my friend list. He's a good one, and I love when he comes on the show. All right, everybody, that's going to do it for today. If you have questions, put them down below the YouTube video. That helps out the channel. Of course, if you are new, I see we got some new people here. Hit some subscribe. Hit the little subscribe button there, and then that helped me out as well. Tomorrow, I don't have... Oh, hold on a sec. I have a huge company party tomorrow, and I may not be able to make it back in time. I'll do my best. I'll try to do a show. Let's just plan on doing a show tomorrow, but yeah, I will. I'll have to post on Twitter. If I get called to go out with the executives tomorrow afternoon, I'm gonna have to do that. So unfortunately, I'm gonna say 60% chance of doing a show tomorrow, unless I get called to go out to the lunch with the execs after our big old meeting tomorrow. But if not, I will do Wednesday TradeStation show for everybody. So that's gonna do it for me, everybody. Sorry for the inability to commit to a show tomorrow. Executives at OTA have a more pull on me than a free show I do here on YouTube. So, all right, that's going to do it. And again, if you have any comments, questions, feedback, put them down below the YouTube video. You can email me at TraderMerlin@gmail.com. And if you have questions regarding collectors, memorabilia stuff, go to Les Wolff Sports LLC.com to get some more information. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the differentiation in our topics we had here on Trader Merlin today. I will see y'all on tomorrow's show, hopefully. Take care.